My name is John Medina. I am originally from Corpus Christi, Texas, but currently I live in San Antonio, Texas. I've been here for over 10 years now, and I work here as an artist, a designer, and also an educator. I teach high school art. I'm also the fine arts director at the school that I teach at, and I got my undergrad from or my BFA from Texas A&M University, Corpus Christi, and then I got my MFA from Northern Illinois University in DeKalb, Illinois. What's influenced my work like throughout the entire my entire art career is trying to look at materials in a different way, and trying to use those materials to tell the story of my identity. Most of the work that I do is about identity. It's about where I come from. It's about my experiences living and growing up in South Texas, and just about the things that I've experienced as a young person, or when I was a young person. I'm not young anymore, but just the observations and trying to connect that to my upbringing. So the first painting that I think I submitted was the serape piece. So serape is basically different colors of, it's meant to mimic the patterns of a Mexican blanket, which is called a serape. It's a traditional Mexican tapestry. And I've always loved those. Like, we've always had them in the house when I was growing up, and it's something that you're just very familiar with. And people love the patterns. The patterns are really colorful. And they're really, just vibrant, and people, like to use them for interior design and stuff. And so what I wanted to do was take that pattern and apply one of my aesthetics to it, which is abstraction, right? So one of the things that I've liked to do in my artwork is, I use a narrative, but my artwork tends to be really abstracted. So by taking away like the texture, taking away the form of the blanket, taking away the actual like fibers, and just breaking it down to just colors, right? And so we have like stripes of color that have been repeated over and over again. One of the other themes that I've tried to tackle within my artwork is how I can take my identity as a Latino and fit that within the context of art history. And so I think that that's something that's not done, right? Like, if we look at art history and we look at like a lot of the contemporary and modern art that we're taught, like it's a lot of white people, right? It's a lot of white guys that are making these abstractions. And so I feel like what's represented there, the stories and the narratives that are there, even though they're abstract, they don't belong to people like me, right? And so I'm trying to use that visual language, but to tell my own stories using that visual language. And so the serape piece was another version of abstraction that I was trying to use. Where I continued that was with the Mexican Coke piece. That piece is an experimentation of, taking this new technology that I had access to, and just trying to apply it to the narrative that I was creating with the serapes. I have a love for printmaking. I have a love for advertising. And as cliche as it is, like, I have a love for Andy Warhol and a lot of the prints that he was making. And so it was my way, same thing, like taking that sort of art history context of like an Andy Warhol print and just like injecting my heritage into that. So using that sort of visual language, but to tell a totally different story with it. I wanted to have a sense of history and a sense of age to it. So there's like some spotting on the paper. The texture of the paper in the background looks like newsprint. So it's meant to have this sort of like history to it, even though it's a new piece that was created using technology. Then I have the rice and bean series. This was just like really an experiment I was trying to figure out. And I thought, how can I take this idea of a stencil and apply it towards, a concept of, a food or something that I want to talk about. And I got the idea to use actual beans and actual grains of rice, and to create like essentially what is the tiniest stencil I've ever used in any of my artwork. And so I basically layered beans and rice onto these panels and then I spray painted over them, and wherever the bean was, like obviously that blocked the paint from, you know, adhering to the background, and just layered it and layered it and layered it, and created this sort of this really abstract sort of pattern that looked like polka dots and kind of like you know, almost like the rice looked almost like confetti, the beans looked like dots, so we had a lot of dot patterns, and I was really pleased with the end result. And then at the end, I felt like I had this just really nice sort of abstract piece that if I didn't tell you what it was, you know, you might just appreciate it for the composition and just the colors that are used. But I think knowing the process of how it came together, you know, just adds to that narrative. So while I do like to work in abstraction, everything that I do like has meaning. Like it's not just, you know, art for art's sake. Like there's a story behind it, and there's a reason for the materials that I use and the colors that I choose and the way that I create the abstraction. In a way, I feel like what I'm trying to do is to claim that sort of artistic space for me, and like I said, for people like me, because, you know, I just feel like as a brown artist, like we're not always allowed to speak in the language of abstraction, in the language of modern art. Like we're not we're told that we have to paint the Virgin Mary, and we have to, you know, use the same sort of imagery over and over again, and so, you know, I'm trying to fight that stigma.